For 2.5 years, I traveled full-time. And at the end of that, just after my 27th birthday, I achieved the feat of having visited every single country in the world. And that is such a young age to have achieved such an incredible life goal. And it's an age where you have so many options. And the one that I picked kind of surprises a lot of people. They kind of saw me as this free spirit and someone who would never want to stay in one place for too long. And yet, that's like really far from the truth. I was so excited to get back to work. I love what I do, and I love my life now more than I have ever loved my life. And so I am confident that it was the absolute best decision. But here are the reasons why, after visiting every single country in the world, spending 2.5 years traveling full-time, I decided to return to what often people call the drudgery of the 9 to 5. And why it works for me, and why I think it was the best decision that I've ever made, and why now I am the happiest that I think I've ever been in my entire life. So, why? There are a lot of reasons. I think that the first and most obvious and one of the biggest points is that while I love travel and it's a hugely important part of my life and something that I feel like I'm constantly learning from and I gain so much from, and I think everybody should do it in different ways that they're able to, it's not something that I feel like I can do every single moment of every single day. And definitely not in a sustainable way like I was before, in that I had no home. I love traveling and I still do quite a bit of it, but the idea of being constantly on the road, the idea of having traveled being the impact that I have on the world is not really something that piques my interest in the fullest of ways. And really, I've always said that it's not travel that I love, but the world that I love. And you don't have to be traveling to engage with the world. And I'm lucky in the career that I have that I engage constantly with the world. And I get to travel sometimes for work. And I find that a way more fulfilling form of travel. And of course, getting that first-hand experience is amazing. And I've done it and I continue to. But I'm still engaging in the world and in new and exciting ways. The second most important part, I love my work. I love the jobs that I have. I love the career that I'm building. I love the everyday grind. I love to have a positive impact on the places that I'm living. And I love to think analytically and think critically and, problem solve in structured ways and work with a team to be able to see the impact that I'm having over time on these economies. And that's what I spent so long working for and studying for and researching and building the skill set so that I can be useful in the ways that I want to be. And it's such a privilege to have had a path like I have, where I've, from a very young age, said this is what I want to do and this is how I want to do it. And I went to the schools and studied what I needed to do, and I got the jobs and I learned the skill set, and I, am making it slowly but surely. And I think that that's a huge goal of mine as well. I mean, it's not as quantifiable as visiting every country, but the reward is just as significant to me, and it's just as significant of a goal that I will always have and will always think of. And speaking of goals, I think it's always important to realize in our own lives, but also when we're looking at the lives of others, that we have so many different goals. Traveling to every country in the world was a huge goal of mine, And I'm so lucky and blessed that I was able to accomplish that. But I have other ones. Some of them are career-based, and some of them have nothing to do with travel, and maybe traveling would have made it way more complicated to have accomplished that. And I think that being able to look at your life every day and say, am I achieving the things that I want to achieve? And also a big goal of mine really was just kind of to settle down. I mean, I didn't really grow up constantly going all around the world. I mean, we'd take lots of trips, but from when I was born until I was 16, I was in the same like small town in Indiana, and I like that. Like, I love being home. I like building a home that feels like incredibly comfortable to me. I used to joke with all my friends when I was traveling full time that my biggest goal was to get like a shampoo bottle and like use it all, because when I was traveling, you know, I'd always have these small little ones or like maybe none at all. And it's just like a silly thing, but it showed that I was desiring like some permanency, and now I have it in a way that makes me feel really content, and I miss home, and that's an exciting feeling in a way, because it means that you're attached to something, and it means you have something to go back to. And you know, for the 2.5 years when I was traveling, I didn't really have that, and I really love it and enjoy that so much now. There's also just some practical reasons, right? So one is that I always knew that I was going to go back to work. It was originally a 6-month trip, and it was not to go to every country in the world. It turned into a year, and then I did actually go back kind of to work for 3 months. I went and worked for a venture capital fund in New York, helped set it up, and then I like finished my last 17 countries. But I never thought that I would make travel my life. I always knew that I wanted to get back to this kind of impact that I have in my career. And I'm like shocked it was 2.5 years. Like, I don't think that I believed I could have done that, that I would have like stayed sane. And maybe I didn't stay sane. It wasn't an accident. I loved that it became 2.5 years, but I always knew I was going to come back. I was always looking for, you know, entries back into it. And so I am like happy that it like worked out. A big part of why I always knew that I was going to come back to work is that truly I felt selfish in a way when I was traveling full time. And that's because the roles that I've had have always been such a high impact societally, and when I was traveling, it felt like though I was improving and I was becoming a better person and I was learning so much, I was like leaving behind this like grander impact that I could have. And I really love doing like social media and doing Instagram and these videos because I know that they have an impact as well. But there's a huge difference in the impact that I felt like I could have while traveling, and one that I can have if I like stay true to the career that I've like worked so long for, because it really feels endless, right? To be in the room with key decision makers on global policy, on like international business, on societal issues. That is such a rewarding thing for me, and even if my role is incredibly small, it's always growing, and that impact is tangible. I've seen it. I like know the effect that I've had, and I'm like super grateful for it, and I'm excited for that to always continue. And at the back of my mind, I was just always thinking, like, this feels selfish, like this feels for me, like I'm benefiting, and I've always lived my life wanting others to benefit more from what I do than myself. And just traveling around the world on my own didn't always feel like that, though I really do love like sharing with you guys on Instagram, on YouTube, and like having conversations with you and and having that impact in both ways. And that's another part, is that I can do both. Right? Like, I've been able to have a job and have my career and do all of the businesses that I want to do, while also being able to engage on social media with you guys. And I love that I can do both. And sometimes it's exhausting to do both. I mean, I share mostly only the travel with you guys, but 50% of my life is what you don't see. And it takes a lot of like mind share, and it takes a lot of like stress too. And it's the same on the reverse. I think people at work don't know how much of an effort I put into this stuff either. It's all rewarding though, and I love doing it. And I think that if I had to choose between one, I might not be able to, but I love being able to do it. And then I think one of the reasons that people most expect is only partially true, and that's the idea of money. And the reality is that I've never really let money dictate my life, and that's such an obnoxiously privileged thing to say, but it's true. I've always lived within whatever means I've had, if it's a lot or less than that. And I had no monetary restrictions on ending my travels when I did. But I do also enjoy earning an income and being rewarded in that way. But never would I make a decision based on money. And obviously that's such a blessing, to not have to always consider it, or at least not consider it as a an incredibly important criterion in anything that I'm doing. I've always taken the jobs that I love. I've always done the things that I've wanted to, regardless of the income. But at the same time, super appreciative and happy to have it as well. There's also probably the question, I'm sure a lot of you are going to not make it to the end of this video, and you're going to ask me in the comments, and so my response will always just be watch till the end. But what do I actually do for work? It's a little bit complicated. I do a handful of things, and I'm not super publicly sharing about what I do. It's not responsible or relevant or professional of me to do that, since this is a completely different thing. But I am a strategy and investment advisor. I work with governments and companies all around the world on planning for the future and having the impact. Obviously, I live in Abu Dhabi. My focus is here. My main role is here. I also help with Reka, the travel startup, which I really love doing. And a handful of other projects. My NGO Trail of Seeds, we're always looking at ways to relaunch that. But yeah, all of these things and more are kind of what I do. Though in reality, I wish that I worked 9 to 5. I've never had a job where I worked only 9 to 5. I work 9 to 9 or 9 to midnight or weekends. So it would be great if it was only 9 to 5, but no complaints. Not in the CIA or a drug kingpin or whatever everybody always asks me if I am, because of how much I've traveled. At least I would never tell you that. But that'd be fun. Maybe someday. I don't know. Any of y'all can call me up and see if we can get that done. I love sharing with you guys. I love sharing the trips that I go on, and I love sharing like the way that it works. I love making these videos. I hope you love watching them. There's so many more. You can see below, so please subscribe, comment. I respond to every message if I can. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook, wherever you would like to, and I hope that you all travel safe.